New York City is home to some of the world's most iconic buildings. But its most impressive structure might actually be right here.
Underground. With the swipe of a Metro card, you can ride from the Bronx to Midtown to Brooklyn to Queens, all on the same network. But it's not always seamless.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are delayed because of train traffic ahead of us.
Now, New York is undergoing its biggest subway expansion in 50 years, with the 2nd Avenue subway. This stretch between 63rd Street and 96th was completed in 2017, and it cost $1.7 billion per kilometre. Yes, that's billion with a B. And that's just phase 1 of the project. There are plans to extend the line even further uptown from 96th Street to 125th. Now, the newly passed US infrastructure bill could help fund the $6 billion price tag on phase 2. Of course, there's the challenge of building beneath the city that never sleeps, dodging layers of existing underground infrastructure, and manoeuvring tunnel boring machines across Manhattan. It took nearly 100 years to complete the first few kilometres of the 2nd Avenue subway. So can New York do it all again? New York's subway system helped make the city a world leader in urban transportation.
Almost any section of the city is within easy walking distance of a subway station.
Today, there are more than 470 stations across 4 boroughs. That's more than any other underground system in the world. In recent decades, though, the subway's lost its edge over other cities with more reliable networks. Tokyo's built an uber-efficient subway system that takes reliability to a whole new level. Many cities like London, Hong Kong and Sydney have smart ticketing systems. Seoul and Shanghai have step-free access at 100% of their stations. New York, not so much. Accessibility is notoriously bad across the network. The city just recently got contact payment technology in its stations. The trains can get crowded, tunnels are deteriorating, delays are inevitable, and projects to fix it have a tendency to go way over budget. When we say this moment has been a long time in the making, we mean a really, really long time. The idea for a 2nd Avenue subway was first tabled in 1920. The city put a budget together for it in 1929, and then the Great Depression hit. Just when it looked like the economy had recovered and construction was about to begin, World War II kicked off and the project was delayed again.
On 2nd Avenue, for example, work is getting underway on a new subway line that will run from the Bronx all the way down to the tip of Manhattan.
That video is from 1973. For nearly a century, the 2nd Avenue subway was proposed, postponed, started, stopped, and pushed further down the priority list. Meanwhile, subway access on the east side of Manhattan began to lag behind the rest of the city. Finally, in 2006, federal funding was approved and construction on the 2nd Avenue subway began again in 2007. In all, the new line is envisioned to stretch across the entire east side, from 125th Street in East Harlem to Hanover Square in downtown. And it'll be constructed in 4 separate phases. So far, they've gotten through phase 1. It extends the existing Q train from 63rd Street to 96th Street. The station at Lexington and 63rd Street was upgraded and modernised, and new stations were built around 72nd, 86th and 96th Streets. Phase 2 of the 2nd Avenue subway would extend the Q train even further uptown to 125th Street, building 3 new stations at 106th, 116th and 125th Streets. The aim is to reduce overcrowding and delays and improve accessibility at the stations. Almost 200,000 people are estimated to use the new line that was built for phase 1.
But getting approval for phase 2 might be tricky, especially given how much time and money it's taken to complete phase 1. In fact, it took so much time and money that at one stage the 2nd Avenue subway was the world's most expensive subway track. That's until it was overtaken by New York's other scheme, the East Side Access Project, just down the road.
Now, there's a few reasons why the new stations and roughly 3 kilometres of track had a $4.5 billion price tag. Firstly, building in New York is expensive. Construction costs are generally higher here compared to other cities and countries. New York is one of the most densely populated cities in the world, which means any construction is probably going to affect a lot of people's daily lives. And below ground, there's a maze of building foundations, sewer pipes, power lines, and existing subway lines to avoid. Back in the old days of building the subway, construction crews would shut down the entire street for excavation. But that kind of approach won't really fly today. It's loud and disruptive for the many people who now live and work in the area. Instead, the crew used tunnel boring machines they could lower into the ground and drill through the hard rock for almost 40 blocks, without people above ground even noticing. But the most expensive element wasn't actually the twin-track tunnelling. Roughly half of the budget went towards building the new stations. They're some of the largest underground excavations in America. Before blasting, the crew reinforced some of the nearby buildings to protect them from the force. Construction teams then drilled, blasted, and reinforced the inside of the caverns, all while people lived and worked in the buildings just above ground. Once those caverns were cleared and the tracks laid, designers worked to specially construct the new stations to dull the sound of the rattling subway cars that New Yorkers know all too well. Instead of the echo-prone tile and stone that's used in other stations across the city, engineering firm Arup lined the new station's ceilings with metal panels backed with sound-absorbing fiberglass. When the Second Avenue subway was first put forward back in the 1920s, designers, planners and politicians were probably all working off some paper drawings that needed to be passed around for approval. Now, after 100 years of updated designs, budgets and teams, a paper filing system isn't going to cut it. That's where digital platforms like Autodesk Build become essential. It's a construction management platform that's easy to use for teams, whether they're in the office on their desktop or deep below ground with a tablet. Teams can control who has access to what information and make sure everyone's working from the most up-to-date data. It's a single source of truth that's all updated in the cloud. As America sets out to rebuild its aging infrastructure, tools like this will be key. Making sure projects run on time and on budget is crucial for the Second Avenue subway, especially as it has so many phases left to complete. We reached out to a range of organisations asking for an interview for this video, but no one wanted to talk about Phase 2. Despite the challenges, the full Second Avenue subway could have a huge impact on New York. Extending the Q train to 125th Street would better connect East Harlem with the rest of the city. The long-term benefits this project could bring to commuters and the city have the potential to long outlive the political and construction complexities of today.
The subway system's been a quintessential part of New York City for generations. But now it's up to New York to make sure that it remains fit for generations to come. This video was made possible by Autodesk Construction Cloud. You can learn more about Autodesk Build at the link below. And as always guys, if you want to get more from the definitive video channel for awesome projects like this, make sure you're subscribed to the B1M. More playful, with that at the end.